Steve Hilton is now fallen to second place in the race for governor, I believe. He is a Republican. He is in his car. Steve, you are in. Hey, how you doing, my friend? You feeling okay?
I'm feeling very good, Billy. We're feeling very confident that we'll be in the top two. There seems to be no way that the billionaire climate fanatic, Tom Steyer, despite spending over $200 million, is going to be able to catch up. But it's a disaster what's happened with Spencer, of course. We're really sad about that. And what you just laid out was perfect. I don't think I've heard anyone explain it better, and I agree with every word.
Thank you. Steve, let's talk about Spencer while we're here. We do think you're comfortable. Javier Becerra, who is a former cabinet secretary for Joe Biden and really just a very bland and boring institutional politician. He's at 27%, like $1.8 million. Steve Hilton is at 26.1, so 0.9 behind him at $1.76 million. And Tom Steyer, who literally has dumped $220 million on his own campaign, is 21.3%. So it would be a miracle. Not even the institutional Democrats like Tom Steyer. Like nobody likes Tom Steyer. So, but it looks like Becerra and Hilton. So we will turn our attention quickly to Los Angeles County. Do you know of or do you suspect fraud in LA County? Did Spencer get outfoxed, out-hustled, or did somebody cheat? What is your feeling?
I think it's what you described. It's the machine that's been built for years to make this happen. And remember that it was a very uphill battle because Los Angeles is just a very Democrat city. And I think that Spencer fought an incredible campaign and got the whole country, never mind Los Angeles, excited about his message. And he was so right and is so right. I mean, people say, oh, his AI videos, whatever, and his ads. Of course, his ads were incredible and managed to generate a huge amount of excitement. All the AI ads were not him, but still added to that excitement. But behind all that, there was real substance. And I hope people don't forget that. And I certainly won't. You look at his plan on homelessness, it was incredible. It's exactly what I've been talking about for over a year. So he had the detail and the way he spoke about how he would run things, putting together a really serious, competent team, and so on. So I think it's very important to remember that. It wasn't just a bunch of ads and clever social media stuff. He fought a really good campaign. Look, I don't know where he's at. I'm not close to Spencer. I've met him once. I supported him. I met him that one time, actually, when he announced his candidacy. And I'm absolutely committed, if he is open to it, to working with him to make sure that his ideas and his commitment to LA somehow can be made to happen.
That would be great. Fold him into he could be a tremendous presence for you in this area and extract more votes than any Republican could ever even dream of in Los Angeles County, for sure. But look, whether Spencer had a good message, he was definitely his negative message, and I don't mean negative but his anti-establishment, anti-incumbent message was very strong and resonating, for sure. And whether he could have done a better job on these are the things we want to do. Here's the positive, forward-looking, visionary stuff. The major problem is that there is a huge machine here. I say to people, it isn't broken. It was built this way. It's actually working exactly as it was constructed. And I put my little, Hot Mic Studios, video on harvest season in LA a second ago. But that's what it is. And for someone to to become the next mayor, you just have to out harvest and then try and change the system. Do you agree with that?
Yes. And the other point I would add, is time and work. Spencer announced his candidacy on January the 7th. I remember because I was there. He announced it at the They Let Us Burn rally in Palisades, the 1-year anniversary of the fire. He was speaking at that, so was I. And he announced it. He was like 2 or 3 speakers before me. And nobody knew he was going to do that. And it was a thrilling moment. And I was proud to endorse him on the spot. But that was January. And so he didn't have a lot of time. And remember, I launched my campaign for governor the previous April, the end of April. Now, as you know, we've discussed it, and people have seen. I've been nonstop traveling the state. Of course, the state of California statewide race is massively bigger than LA, and so of course I needed the time. But I've been able to spend the time and done the work. I've traveled the state, raised the money. It's a serious business, and I'm very proud to see that all that work from me and my team. We've been working incredibly hard, and and all my supporters, and we've built a machine. We've built our own little machine, honestly, from nothing. I've never run for anything before, and we've built a small dollar donor base of, I think it's now nearly 80,000 people from nothing. That's on a par with, these members of Congress who've been elected, at the federal level for decades. We did it from nothing. Now, I just want to add one thing to your point about the how ridiculous and outrageous this machine on voting that they've built, doing everything in their power legally to favor themselves. There's one thing that is just extraordinary to anyone watching, which is this mail-in ballot 7 days after the election. The argument is, well, we want maximum participation. So if someone wants to vote on election day, we're going to treat sending in a mail ballot the same as if you were voting. That's why we're going to give 7 days for the ballot to arrive. But there's a line in the law that says that actually the proof that you mailed your ballot on or just before election day, even if it arrives after election day, it's not just the postmark. You can write it. You can handwrite the date.
Wow.
And that counts. It's not. I was talking about this at the last elections. I had a whistleblower from the Postal Service explaining this. So just to be really clear what that means, you can backdate your ballot
by hand.
Counted by hand, and it will be counted. That's how outrageous. Insane this system is.
I didn't even know that. That is outrageous. Oh my God. You talk about, listen, congratulations on your ground game. What you have managed to do in California is astounding, really. And you mentioned Spencer jumped into this thing January 7th, so he really hasn't had very much time. He had a lot of enthusiasm, passion, but not much of a ground game, which is exactly what you have to have because you're up against a massive one. But are you a little stunned? I mean, like, Nithya Raman, who really nobody knows. Yes. Nobody knows Nithya Raman. And she is gaining disproportionately in every count that they do, even to Karen Bass. She's beating Karen Bass in every one of these things. Is this DSA? Is this the socialists, the Democrat Socialists of America? Who is this? Why is her ground game so unbelievably strong? Why are all these people voting in the very end for her over Karen even?
Because of the machine, and it's a different version of the machine. This is where you look at the non-profits and the far left activist groups and the unions, many of them. And this is the political machine that the Democrats have built. And I want to go back to something that we exposed we didn't talk about it actually when I was on the show with you the other week. One of the things that we did in the campaign was a kind of part of my campaign was this effort, CalDOGE, where we set up, it's a team of volunteers going through the books and looking what happened with the money. We found we published these fraud reports. We published 5 of them. 3 of them were right on target with this machine. I'll give you these examples. So the cannabis tax, Prop 64, legalized cannabis in California. The tax was supposed to go towards substance abuse prevention. We actually followed the money. This was our first report. We found that $350 million from that fund for substance abuse prevention actually was funneled into activist groups and nonprofits building the Democrat political machine. We in over 500 grants of under $1 million, so they would be hard to track. But we found it using, we got great volunteers and
these are activist groups that are promoting, whatever it's.
Yeah. They're doing voter registration.
Oh.
Voter registration, ballot harvesting, all the things you described.
Right.
From the cannabis tax. Okay. Second example. This is all published on at CalDOGE.ai. Second example, there was a fund set up, this is since 2015, from the gas tax, from the Climate Change Mitigation Fund, gas tax and other taxes that make our energy costs so high. This was supposed to be spent on installing solar panels on low-income apartment buildings. $100 million every year, starting in 2015. It's now $1 billion. We found that of that total of $1 billion, 72 million had actually been spent on solar panels, 928 million over 10 years spent on Democrat activist groups. All these little groups doing environmental justice, all these things. What it comes down to is what you just talked about there, is registering voters, signing people up. That's what they do. The third example, CHIRLA, that's the immigrant rights group that was that was very involved in the ICE riots a year ago. CHIRLA, they've become quite notorious. Mm-hmm. They have an office in Mexico helping promote illegal immigration. CHIRLA, we found, is 85% funded by California taxpayers.
Oh my God.
They support Javier Becerra. We found their document on their website that talks about how they spend their money from their political action. They pay for ballot harvesting, including on their website, they say, undocumented people. In other words, California taxpayer money is going into paying illegal immigrants to do ballot harvesting for Democrat politicians.
Is this criminally illegal, or is there somewhere in the writing down below, the legalese at the very bottom, is there some loophole that actually, keeps this unprosecutable?
Well, I don't. That's the question, because they say undocumented. They say in the professional part, in the paid voter contact, where they're doing registering voters and doing ballot harvesting.
Is this all up on your CalDOGE site?
Yes, that was the last one. And
I applaud you for using the word Doge. Some people might think a little soon, but
I know we might.
It wasn't successful in the federally. It was abandoned, but I do like the concept. Everybody likes the concept.
I appreciate what you said there, and I don't want people to be hung up on the name.
Right,
it's the substance that matters. So we may well change that, because I don't want that to be a distraction.
The transparency movement, there's something that's sweet. And Spencer talked about that too. I think every politician that wants to really connect with people who are in the middle, which is most people, I think, is I'm just going to be honest. I'm going to show you, it's your money. We're just going to show you, and together, we'll muddle through whatever we got to do here. We'll show you the bumps and the bruises, and then try and fix it. It's all you have to do, is just be honest. And this machine in California, I'll tell you, I'm going to get into this, but Gavin Newsom is an absolute capo. He is a capo in the mafia. What he has managed to pull off is unbelievable, and he did it during COVID, and I don't think many people really understand how, frankly, Donald Trump hates Gavin Newsom, but he might be a little like, if he could step away from it, like it's as dirty as it is, it's quite impressive. They have out-hustled, they've outmaneuvered, they've managed to keep their territory so far. And it just, a better effort is needed by anyone that wants to change it.
Well, I'm just going to tell you right now, this is what I hate more than anything. This kind of arrogant, corrupt establishment machine. And I don't care whether it's on the left or the right. I cannot stand this kind of arrogant grip on power of unaccountable people. And so these people have no idea what's coming to them. Becerra and the machine. I see the commentary already. Oh, he's facing Hilton. He's the next governor. Foregone conclusion. They don't know what's coming. They have no idea. They've never faced anyone like me.
Give me a preview. How are you going to fight this?
Right now.
How are you going to fight this? You got to be really tough. You got to be all over them, and you got to get, your use of media is very good. The mainstream media, you're better off here. But how do you make people cover this?
I think that the one word I would use is energy, right? They haven't had anyone who's just going to go after them.
Right.
like I am. And that with the righteous anger of what they've done to our state and how they're doing it in this corrupt manner, the corruption of this machine that's been ruling and ruining California will be exposed. And they've got, and on their side, a perfectly amiable non-entity. This is not an impressive person.
No.
He's someone who's risen through the establishment with zero accomplishments.
This is a real test to the system they have built.
Exactly.
Javier Becerra is a real test.
They have not picked a strong candidate. They have someone who is just obviously more of the same: cost, incompetence, corruption. There's nothing to him. He's a puppet of the machine, and we're going to take him apart. And I'm excited about it. And change, as I said, on election night and in all our events since then, and you'll see it this week as well, when finally, whenever they call this race, which they will, and it will be for me, change is coming. Change is coming to California.